Okay, we are live, I believe. So you're going to have to tell me if you can see me or not. And I need to move over a little bit. Hi, everybody. I went the wrong direction. Chuck Holton here. And I'm in Jerusalem. And we're going to do a quick update on what's going on in the war against Hamas. And there's a lot going on. So I appreciate all of you who are here. The first thing I want to do is just remind you that I'm doing this every night when I get a chance, not always at the exact same time. And I'm just doing this because it's a more long form way to talk about what's going on with the war. It's not meant to be polished. It's not meant to be perfect. Actually, it's meant to be just the opposite of that. It's just me kind of doing my thing. I don't have a big crew here. It's just me. And I'm kind of making this work as I go along. If you want to follow my personal reporting, not just the stuff I'm doing for CBN, but everything I'm doing, and the visit to the Garden of Gethsemane I did the other morning, that sort of thing, you can go to my Hot Zone podcast. It's called The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. It's here on YouTube, and you can do it. Now, I just want to check real quick and see if all these messages coming in are people saying that they can hear me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it looks like they can hear me. That's good. It's always good when my microphone works. Okay, so I am going to be talking today about a couple of things. First of all, something that's really kind of horrific and mind-blowing, and then what Israel is doing to push back against that. Before I do that, I want to remind you that if you're not subscribed to our channel, please go do so. It takes one click, subscribe there. You can hit the notification bell and it will notify you whenever we go live, so you can watch these things live yourself and not miss any of them. So let's see, I'm in Jerusalem. That's the Jerusalem night sky back behind you. I'm about 200 yards or maybe a little more from the old city right over there and the Armenian quarter. So actually the bells were just ringing over there in the Armenian church. You have probably seen videos of the massive pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protests that have been happening basically all around the globe, big cities everywhere, especially in the United States and especially on college campuses. There have been a tremendous number of those pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protests. You hear them screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What that is saying is that Israel should not exist as a country, that Jews have no right to their own country. And we've been talking about this for a while. A lot of people are getting into this sort of argument, and I have to be careful not to delve too much into the realm of opinion here, because this is supposed to be, I'm supposed to be giving you the news, but I think it's safe to say it's kind of ridiculous for people to be defending. If you find yourself on the side of having to defend a group of people who put live babies in ovens and baked them while their mothers were being raped and their fathers were being shot in the back of the head, I think maybe you should question your worldview a little bit more. That's all I'll say about that. Suffice it to say that these protests are not victimless in any way, shape, or form. We have seen lots of Jews who have had to, run away, who've been beaten, who have, been locked inside buildings and unable to get out, so essentially kidnapped or at least unjustly detained. Today we saw a man actually die at a protest in Los Angeles, where he was struck in the head by somebody with a bullhorn, fell over and cracked his head on the pavement, and later died from his injuries. But I'm going to submit to you that these protests do far more harm than good for the Palestinian cause and for the Palestinian people. And that's because, first of all, more Palestinians are going to die because of these protests. The way that I know that is because I'm watching as this whole thing unfolds, this invasion into Gaza, this full-scale war, and the Israelis are doing very well. Actually, they've made it, they've just day before yesterday encircled the city of Gaza City up in the north, and they pushed into the city, and we were saying that this was going to be some of the hardest fighting that they were going to have to face was inside the Gaza City, because it's still a vastly built up area and there's just a whole lot of angles from which to get shot in there. So there's going to be some hard fighting. Well, they've already made it to the center of the city. Now, it doesn't mean they've conquered the city by any stretch, but what they have found along the way are lots and lots of caches of weapons, and we're talking millions of dollars of weapons. They found lots of places where they fire rockets from. Many of them were inside schools, next to hospitals, next to playgrounds, inside youth centers, churches, mosques, things like that. And it answered a question for me, because I had wondered how did they manage to pop out of a hole in the ground, set up these rockets to fire, multiple rockets. I've stood there and watched them as they've gone over my head in Sderot, and we're talking about dozens of rockets. So these things are not light. It would take some work to get them set up, and then fire them off, and then get back in their holes before Israel comes in with a fighter jet and smokes the place that where they fired it from. Well, what we found out is that they have built these things into some buildings so that there's basically a facade on the side of the building that they drop and fire the rockets, and they can actually set them on a timer to fire after there's nobody there. So all they do is drop the cover on the side of the building, which exposes the rocket tubes, dozens and dozens of them. They set the timer and run off and go hide in their hole, and then these rockets fire on their own. And again, many of these things are disguised inside of things that are supposed to be youth centers or children's daycare centers, things like that. Really bad, not cool. Yeah, cowards is right, DW. Folks, if you want to donate to CBN, to what we're doing to support our work here, you can go down to the bottom of your screen. There's 3 little dots on the right-hand side. You click that and hit the word thanks, and then it'll give you an option to donate whatever you like to help CBN continue to bring you this programming. We've got a big group of people here. There's somebody who just did it. Thank you. I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I can see that. Jewel, I think it's Julie? Julie, yeah. And Selena, thank you very much, from Norway. I always wondered what NOK was. It was Norway. Anyway, very kind of you to do that, and we're going to use that to help keep us here. We've got a team, I would say probably about a dozen people here in our Jerusalem Bureau, which is that building right there. And the second floor down is our office. We've got people, we've been working basically 24/7 in there. We've got people in there working, cranking out content, and we're doing our best to bring you the best news possible out of Israel. And so those contributions really help. Thank you very much there. So back to Hamas. They are losing dozens and dozens of fighters every day inside Gaza. And there's been this argument going around that has said, like, well, there's a lot of peaceful, peace-loving people in northern Gaza, and they just want to live their life, and they don't like Hamas, but they have to be there. And so all the bombs that are being dropped, you know, Israel should stop doing that. Even the president has called for a pause, not a ceasefire, but a pause. Well, I don't know what the difference is, and I guarantee you that the hostages, the 244 hostages who are stuck in Gaza right now and praying that somebody will come and rescue them, would not know the difference between a pause and a ceasefire either. The bottom line is that, thank you, SJ, for that. The bottom line is these, the people who are pushing for humanitarian pause or ceasefire are, well, I won't say intellectually dishonest, I'll just say perhaps ignorant of the facts on the ground. And the facts on the ground are that the people who were against Hamas have already left. How do I know that? Well, there's a video that came out yesterday that was shot on November 4th, so 3 days ago. And it was filmed at the hospital in northern Gaza, the only one that's still operating. And what they did was they set up a big movie theater in the parking lot of this hospital. And there are thousands of people crowded around the hospital because they know that Israel is a moral country and will not bomb that hospital, even though they know for a fact that Hamas is using that hospital as their headquarters. Underneath the hospital in tunnels, Hamas is under there, and they're not only using under the hospital as their headquarters. Thank you, RS and Herman, sorry. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure you, and thank you, Paul, as well. I think that's Canadian money. Hamas is using the fuel that is supposed to go to fuel the hospital to fuel its generators to pump air into their tunnels. They also stole some of the oxygen concentrators that were donated to that hospital for medical purposes. They took them underground and they're using them to provide oxygen in the tunnels for their fighters. So everybody knows that. I also wanted to point out that Israel has offered a reward and safe passage and a safe place to live to anybody in Gaza who will provide information that leads to the successful recovery of some of the hostages. I'm trying to take care of my voice here because I've been talking a lot. I mean, think about this. The amount, I don't know exactly the amount of money they're offering, but I'm told that it is a substantial amount of money. They're dropping leaflets over Gaza and, you know, that say, if you have information that will help us recover some of the hostages, bring this leaflet to the IDF checkpoint and we will give you a large reward, which would essentially be like winning the lottery in Gaza, and safe passage to a safe place where you can live safely. Thank you very much, Lisa. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you. So, the people in Gaza have had lots of opportunities. There's another one. Gosh, you guys are really killing it tonight. Ari, thank you very much. Israel has had tons of opportunities. Not only that, but they have specialized units they're putting together to go along with their troops as they push into Gaza City. If they find women and children, to give them to those units, and those units will spirit them out of there safely. And that's, I don't know of any other army in the world that would do that, that would actually specifically put together units to go rescue people that are on the side of the enemy. Today, the IDF successfully set up a humanitarian corridor into Gaza, and they announced it that, okay, you can use this corridor if you want to get out of Gaza. This is your time to go. Just wave a white flag and come right down this road and we won't shoot you. And somehow they managed to do it without Hamas shooting them, which has been the problem for the last few days. Hamas has killed many of their own people who were trying to flee, and we have video of that, and has bombed the humanitarian corridor more than once. But today, thousands of people got out along that humanitarian corridor, waving white flags. Now, I guarantee you that some of those thousands of people were, at one point, like 12 seconds ago, Hamas fighters who have decided that discretion is a better part of valor and they want to get out of there and they're tired of getting bombed. So there's no way they could I mean, there's tons of people going through there. There's video of it. I meant to try to get it in here for you, but wasn't able to do it in time. So the IDF is doing everything they can to avoid civilian casualties. Let's put it that way. And thank you, Luelzio. Okay, I couldn't read that, sorry. Now, keep that in mind. And keep in mind that all of these people have the opportunity, if they know anything that would help the IDF, they can get a reward for that by going and telling it to the IDF and get safe passage out of there. And this video I'm about to show you was shot in northern Gaza, the area that is surrounded now, at the hospital where they've already said that's a humanitarian zone, we're not going to bomb it. The hospital set up a big movie screen now to show a movie, and I think, well, that's kind of nice, actually. Give them some way to maybe forget their plight for a while. Now, over the last couple of weeks, the IDF has been showing a video to journalists here in Israel. There's been several showings of it, and it is a video that's 43 minutes long, and it's uncut footage from surveillance cameras and body cameras that were worn by the terrorists. And it was footage shot on October 7th during the terror attacks. And again, it is uncut, unedited. Thank you, Jim and Danny, very kind of you. Unedited footage of the atrocities that took place on that day. And let me tell you, it's horrific. People being summarily executed, people being tortured, people being beaten, raped. It's absolutely horrific. And 43 minutes long of this stuff. We've been told that some of the journalists that were there were throwing up. Some had to get up and leave. Many of them were shedding tears, were crying. It is really, really bad stuff. Well, somebody got a copy of that video, and that's what they showed at the hospital in Gaza. Now, you would think that get all these civilians together, show them what actually happened on October 7th, and those people would rise up and en masse would renounce Hamas and try to give themselves up or something, get out of there. It's not what happened. I'm going to show you this video now, and I'm going to let the audio play so you can hear the people's reaction as they watched the video of Jews being slaughtered on October 7th. This was provided by Memory TV, which means it was found to be correct, like they translated it. And this is an actual corroborated video. Listen. They are cheering as they watch Jews being slaughtered. They are cheering. Now, I'm going to choose to believe that a lot of people in that crowd were actually horrified by what they saw. And I've seen it before in the war against ISIS, where people that supported ISIS, that were actually members of ISIS, ISIS fighters, who got so disgusted by the brutality that they saw as they, just murdered people, burned people alive, cut their heads off, all that kind of stuff, that they renounced ISIS and even went so far as to renounce Islam and become either atheist or Christian, or atheist and then Christian. They were just so, anybody that's got a shred of humanity can't watch that kind of brutality and be happy about it. But I just want to point that out, because these are the civilians that people are protesting about. These are the civilians. Thank you, Chai. Thank you for that. These are the civilians that all these protests are about. And you see these pictures of the poor, bloody little children. Look, if there are little children being hurt in there, that's horrific, and it's a tragedy, and it's not Israel's fault. I mean, logically, you cannot make a logical case that it's Israel's fault that all this is happening, because Israel was not bombing Gaza before October 7th. There was a ceasefire on October 6th, right? Now it's looking like they're going to have to go into Gaza and stay there for months, if not years, to dismantle Hamas and make sure it doesn't grow back. They've got to tear it out by the roots. And they're saying today that one of the plans that's on the table is for Israel to remain as the basically police force inside Gaza indefinitely from now on. They're saying we can't trust these people to govern themselves. We'll let them govern themselves, but we're not going to let them police themselves, and we're going to have to stay in there. That's just a plan. That's not a sure thing, but that's one of the possibilities now that might happen. So when you hear people protesting, oh, thank you, that went by fast, Stargazer, thank you very much. When you hear people protesting about the innocent civilians inside Gaza, I want you to think of that video, because those are the innocent civilians inside Gaza. Ari, thank you very much. Very, very kind. You watch that, I almost don't know what to say. It's just like, it's hard to believe that there are people whose minds are so twisted that they would cheer when they watch a soccer mom get executed in her car with her babies in car seats in the back, her little girls. It's just mind-boggling to me. But there you have it, folks. Now, the point of this show is to answer the question, are Americans fighting for Hamas? Well, my answer is yes, they are. They may not be in Gaza fighting for Hamas, but all of these Americans who are out there protesting for Palestine are protesting on the side of Hamas. And those videos like this one that came out yesterday of people protesting in Turkey, attacking the Incirlik air base where there are thousands of U.S. troops stationed and about 50 nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles that belong to the U.S. They are protesting. Look at that guy's waving an ISIS flag right there. That black flag was an ISIS flag. And so these kinds of protests, the videos are being shared on social media, on Telegram and places like that. Thank you, Michael. They're being shared, and they're being shared inside Gaza, and they're being used as essentially recruiting videos to whip up people's fervor and to say, look, Palestinians, we're winning. We're winning. We just have to fight harder. Get out there and fight. And what that's going to lead to is more dead Palestinians, because Israel is not going to lose this fight. There's just not, the balance of power is so far in Israel's favor that Israel's not going to lose. They might lose on the information battlefield, but they are pushing back hard against that as well. And so the president of Israel, ask yourself, who's the president of Israel? If you said Bibi Netanyahu, you would be wrong. He's the prime minister, but he's the more public figure, right? The president of Israel is Isaac Herzog. He's the first president ever to be born in the actual state of Israel after the 1948, after they became a state in 1948. He's 63 years old, and he went to college in the United States at Cornell and the, I think, City of New York, City University of New York, CUNY. And I want to just read to you, he just penned an open letter to the presidents of American colleges, calling them out for allowing this kind of essentially hate speech and attacks on Jews on their college campuses. Wow, Jeremiah, thank you very much. That's a very generous gift. Thank you so much. He's calling them out for their cowardice in the face of these protests. And I want to read you just part of what he said. Here it says, he said, this is the end of the letter, and you can go read you can look it up and go read it yourself. This just came out. This conflict is far more than a clash between Israel and Hamas. At stake is whether the enlightened world will defend the basic norms of humanity or choose to accept, even support, their violation. This will either be a teaching moment that moves us toward constructive action, or it will be a moment of irreversible decline. How about that? Somebody said the sound died. Okay. No sound. No sound. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I think my battery died on my microphone. And so, yes it did. How about that? All right, I'm back. Hold on. We have a backup. We're just using the... Okay, yeah, I know it's too low. Okay, hang on. I just have to replace the microphone. And then we'll do that right now. Sorry about that, folks. Again, I don't have a cameraman or anybody helping me with this, so it's all on me, and my battery died because I've been broadcasting basically nonstop. Okay, can you hear me? That's better. All right, that ought to fix it. Yep, hear me now. Okay, good. Thank you. Wow, when I see the comments blow up like that, I should really start reading them. Again, please forgive me. It's all my fault because I'm the only one here and trying to do the job of the whole crew by myself here. Let me get this put back. Folks, if you want to follow my reporting, you can go to my podcast, which is called The Hot Zone, here on YouTube. And I do live broadcasts like this every day before I do this one. So you can get a sneak peek of what I'm going to talk about here, and I can delve more into some of the other stuff that I've been doing and tell more stories and things like that. So you can go over to The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton, and you can subscribe over there. And you can also go to chuckholton.locals.com That's my name, Chuck Holton, Holton, .locals, LOCALS.com. And you can subscribe over there for updates and stuff. And I put all of my reporting over there for various different networks, as well as my books and my movies and things like that. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate that. I gotta get my glasses back. So, where was I? Okay, so Herzog, did we hear this? Did we hear this? Did my microphone die as I was reading this letter from the president? I was talking to the president, calling out the... Okay, so let me read again this letter, or it's just an excerpt from the letter, from Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, an open letter calling out the presidents of universities in the United States for allowing Jews to be persecuted on their campuses and hate speech as far as these pro-Hamas rallies that are calling for literally the destruction of an entire country. Okay? And here's the last paragraph of his letter. You can go read the whole thing if you want. But listen to this. This conflict is far more than a clash between Israel and Hamas. At stake is whether the enlightened world will defend the basic norms of humanity or choose to accept, even support, their violation. This will either be a teaching moment that moves us toward constructive action or a moment of irreversible decline. All citizens of free countries must decide where they stand, but few have the responsibility you carry as custodians of knowledge and culture. Your choices now will shape history and will be remembered. Powerful stuff from the president of Israel. And what he's essentially saying is exactly what we just saw on the video, which I'm going to show again. So I want you to, again, look at this video from the hospital. One of the things about these lives is apparently the average person only watches for 7 minutes. So I kind of have to repeat myself a little bit, or else you're not going to hear the message of this. This is a crowd outside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. Watch them as they are watching a movie of atrocities being committed on October 2nd against Jews. And they are cheering for the atrocities. As they watch Jews be murdered, they are cheering. So you didn't lose sound. I just had to take a drink there, and I wanted to just be very clear about the fact that when you see these protests that are protesting against the killing of civilians in Gaza, those are the civilians that we're talking about. Many of them, not all of them, I'm sure, but many of them. Thank you very much. William, many of the people in that crowd were obviously cheering for, as they watched Jews being slaughtered. I don't know what you could say about someone's humanity who would do that. That's all. So are Americans fighting for Hamas? The Americans who are protesting on American college campuses in the United States, in big cities across the United States, they are aiding and abetting a terrorist organization, Hamas, because they are providing sustenance in the form of motivation and recruiting fodder for that terrorist organization. And that will, our universities, yes, they have. Hood, yes, they have. That act will prolong this war, which means more people are going to die, and a lot more Palestinians are going to die, and it will eventually lead to more and more people being killed especially these civilians, because it's taking these people who are quote unquote civilians and it's getting them all riled up to go and fight on the side of Hamas. It's furthering their brainwashing, okay? So yes, they are fighting on the side of Hamas. Now, are there Americans who are actually flocking to Gaza? No, because it'd be impossible to get into Gaza right now. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you for praying for me. It's very tough to get into Gaza. You know, you'd have to be an aid worker to get in there. But there are lots of people who want to fight on the side of Hamas from around the world, places like Afghanistan. Wow. Charles, thank you so much. That's very generous. People from Afghanistan, people from Chechnya, people from Dagestan in Russia, people from Pakistan, and all across the Muslim world. And what they're doing is they're flocking to Lebanon now to fight, supposedly, to fight against Israel. Now, we haven't seen a invasion across the northern border, and I sort of doubt we will. It would be very, very difficult and deadly. And Israel is right now pretty much wiping out anybody who approaches the border fence from the north. And every day they're doing that. They're full on with surveillance up there. They've got balloons, drones, you name it. And they're still getting rocket attacks from across the northern border, without a doubt. But how is my Instinct watch working around the war zone? It's working great. Although I haven't been using the GPS on it, I just use the watch feature right now. As far as GPS goes, when you get close to the actual line of confrontation, your GPS will go a little wonky on your phone or whatever, because they're jamming stuff like that in several places from time to time. Answer that question for you. Now, I want to talk about, so Joe Biden is torn. The President of the United States is kind of trying to straddle the fence, and unfortunately it's a very tall picket fence that he's trying to straddle. And so it's pretty painful for him, because he has a lot of constituents. I'm talking about liberal Jews who obviously are going to be livid if he's not supporting Israel. But he also has a very hard left wing of people who is all in for Hamas. People like Rashida Tlaib and the people who voted for her, more importantly. And a lot of the leftists across, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, because you hear about the war in Ukraine, for example. The people who are mostly supportive of thank you, Sherry, of the war in Ukraine are the left, are liberals in the United States. The people who are a little more about the war in Ukraine, or even very hard against supporting the war in Ukraine, thank you, Franklin, that's very kind, are usually conservatives in the United States on the right. And here in this conflict, which is a similar situation, you have a country that's being attacked that, didn't provoke that attack. They didn't attack first or anything like that. Their people are being unjustly murdered. Civilians in Israel, as well as civilians in Ukraine, have been unjustly attacked and murdered wantonly by Russia and by Hamas. Russia and Hamas are on the same side, right? I mean, they just had the leaders of Hamas go to Russia and meet with Vladimir Putin. So they're on the same side. But yet the United States is so screwed up. Thank you, Sue. Okay, well, I'll talk about that in just a second, Sue. So what we're so confused in the United States that the same, liberals or left-wing people in the United States who support Ukraine are supporting now Hamas against Israel, when Hamas is the one that did the attacking. And it's so complex and thorny. And look, I get it if you want to stand for innocence, but if you have innocents who have been literally intentionally slaughtered here in Israel, and innocents that are being accidentally killed in Gaza, there's no moral equivalence there, right? So at any rate, Joe Biden has to try to thread the needle here. Thank you, Janice, very kind. Has to try to thread the needle here because he's saying, well, you know, we support Israel, we're fully in support of Israel, but we hope that they will, you know, maybe have a little pause here, which is essentially a ceasefire, which would give a victory to Hamas, and at the same time try to support Israel. It's kind of incongruous, right? Well, Israel went to the United States and said, look, we need more weapons. They've had 160% of the people they called up. So when this happened, thank you, Carol, no ceasefire. When they called up their reserves, they called up something like 360,000 people, and they had 60% more people than that respond, meaning 160% of their draft notices responded. I talked to a guy yesterday, and he was just, here in Jerusalem, he was just beside himself because he's like, I want so badly to join and to go fight, but I'm too fat. And so I'm trying so hard to lose weight right now just so I can go enlist. I really want to get in. So they've had so many people sign up that they need more weapons, not for, they have enough weapons for the military, but what they need more for is for the civilians. Because if you've been following my reporting, when I was in what they call the West Bank, or what Christians call Judea and Samaria, last week, I stayed up there for several days with some Christians, Christian families that live up there, and they support the Israeli farmers that are farming that land out there. And they are surrounded by these Jewish people that live in there. And they're living on Israeli land that's administered and secured by Israel. This is the A zone, B zone, C zone conversation. You'll need to go back and watch those previous broadcasts because I'm not going to get into it here. Suffice it to say, they are living there legally. They are not illegal by any sense. Now, some people in the world outside of Israel call them illegal settlements, but that would be like Canada telling me in West Virginia that my gun is illegal, that it's illegal for me to have a gun. No, I'm perfectly within the laws of the place where I live. And so for some foreigner to call me illegal or to say what I'm doing is illegal when it's not against the laws where I live is sort of ridiculous, right? So these Jews that live in Judea and Samaria are living there legally. They get building permits. They build their houses. They're living there legally, 100%. And yet they are surrounded by Arab Palestinians who are very, very upset about all of this that's going on. And there's no big wall between them. There's a chain link fence in some cases. In some cases, there's no fence at all. And so they're very concerned for their own personal safety, and they are crying out for weapons. They've had more than 150,000 people now that have applied for weapons permits that want them for personal security. You understand that the Arab Palestinians who live in Israel, in what they call the West Bank, they can come to the rest of Israel. There's no place in Israel they can't go. Now they have to go through a security check, like at the airport, and that's only because so many people have come out of there and tried to kill Israelis. So they have to check them for weapons and stuff. But there's places where they can just walk through the fence and not even go through the check. There's videos on the Israel Guy's website or YouTube channel about that, about places where there's just a hole in the fence and there's Palestinians just coming right through, no problem. So it's understandable that these Jews who live out there are seeing themselves surrounded by angry Palestinians and are thinking, maybe it would be nice to have a weapon to defend my home with. Because they watched what happened on October 7th, and there's literally Hamas flags flying within sight of these Jewish settlements. They're flying Hamas flags down there. And they're calling for, the leaders of the Palestinian Authority are calling for a repeat of October 7th in the West Bank. Okay? They just arrested a Palestinian activist that was down there literally saying, we are going to come and kill and eat you, to the Jews in the West Bank. That's a little inflammatory, but suffice it to say, these people are worried about this, and rightly so. And the Biden administration gets this request from the Israeli government that, to provide some M16s to the Israelis because they need more guns. And the Biden administration says, we'll only provide them if you can promise us that you will have gun control in the West Bank and you won't allow any of the Jewish settlers there to be able to protect themselves. That was the thing that was just reported tonight. So Joe Biden, meanwhile, the Israelis have not even yet identified all their dead, much less buried them all. They're still reeling from these attacks in which 1,400 people were murdered by Palestinian terrorists in their country. And Joe Biden is calling for gun control over here. That's just perfect. Just perfect. Thank you, Stefan. I missed a couple there. Thank you for that. That's just amazing. Now, I think it was, I forget your name, somebody pointed out that video from memory that I showed of the videos there was of Israeli military vehicles being destroyed during the October 7th uprising. Well, perhaps. I'm told by another source that it was actually the video that Israel showed of all of the atrocities that took place. I cannot confirm. It doesn't show what the video was on that. And so it could have only been of Hamas fighters killing IDF soldiers. I don't know that changes the argument much, if you ask me. Unprovoked, coming in and murdering. There's now over 300 IDF soldiers that were murdered on the 7th of October, pulled out of their tanks, desecrated, humiliated, some of them captured and hauled off into captivity, and those people are cheering. I don't know. I mean, personally, I have not seen anybody on this side, on the other side of I've not seen any Jews that are actually cheering when they see a picture of a Hamas person killed. I see them go, I see them, people will say, that guy had it coming. I've not seen anybody celebrating the fact that they have to go into Gaza and that thousands of people in Gaza are going to die. Now, on that note, before we get ready to go, I just wanted to mention that when you hear those numbers out of Gaza, I've seen 10,000 people dead in Gaza. Remember, those numbers are coming from Hamas. And Hamas has a vested interest in trying to inflate those numbers in order to garner world opinion against Israel. And so I'm not saying they're not true exactly. I'm saying they're probably inflated. Take it with a grain of salt. Bottom line is, it's all a tragedy, and every one of those deaths would not have happened if October 7th had not happened. That's just the plain truth, folks. Okay? So, thank you. God is love. I appreciate that. Those are pounds, I guess. British pounds. Must be somebody from Great Britain. We got people from all over the world watching this thing, and that's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to have to go, but before we do, I want to say thank you very much, and again, remind you that you can go to the Hot Zone podcast, my podcast here on YouTube, and you can sign up there. I also wanted to mention to you that we are planning a trip to Armenia in June. It's going to be June now, June 6th through the 16th of this coming year. we're going to plan a tour to Armenia. And you can sign up and you can come with me and my wife, and we will show you around in Armenia. And we'll be able to help some of the refugees who were driven out of their homes by Azerbaijan and are now internally displaced inside Armenia. Instead of just watching the news, this is your chance to make the news better for people who need it very desperately. And Armenia happens to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. I've been there many times now, and we've run already eight of these tours. And everybody who goes on these tours says it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they will never forget it. Armenia, it should be on the list of places to see before you die. It should be up there with Paris and Rome and places like that, and it's much cleaner and safer than Paris or Rome. And so if you haven't been to Armenia, I would recommend that you go watch the movie that I put out about Armenia. It's a fun movie. It's won almost a dozen awards at film festivals around the world. Even it's won a film festival in Turkey, which is kind of weird since Turkey is kind of an enemy of Armenia. But it's that good of a movie, and I'm tooting my own horn a little bit here, but everybody says so. And it's called Armenia, A Love Story. And you can go find it on, go to armeniamovie.com, armeniamovie.com, and you can watch the movie there. I would highly recommend that you come with us and come see Armenia. It'll give you a firsthand look at the effects of a war like this on the people, what it does to the people, and we're going to be able to actually help those people while we're there. But we're also going to see some unbelievable sites. We're going to get to learn about the biblical history of Armenia. It goes all the way back to 301 AD. We're going to be able to sit at the feet of Mount Ararat and say, right up there is where Noah parked the ark. And we're going to get a chance to sample some incredible food and meet the wonderful people. And we're going to have a great time together. It's June 6th through the 16th. And if you want to go, I'm going to have to post a link to it. But for now, if you'll send me an email, you can reach me at hotzoneholton, Holton, hotzoneholton @gmail.com, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. And if you have a question or a comment about today's broadcast, go ahead and send me an email there. I try to go through every one of them, and I'll try to answer you as best I can. And I will send you the link where you can go. The space is limited. We're only going to take about 25 people on this tour. And if we get more than that to sign up, we're going to have to come up with a different tour, different dates, or get a bigger bus. I don't know, something like that. The bottom line is, I hope that you'll check it out. And again, please go to cbn.com and see all the rest of our great news content. You can support us there. And God bless you. Okay, let's pray for the people here in Israel. Lord, I just come to you right now in the name of Yeshua, the Savior of the world, who came and walked right here, who walked and prayed and did miracles right where we're standing. I pray that you would send your peace to this land. And I pray that you would cause the people in Gaza to see the brutality of what was done to the Israeli people on October 7th and be repulsed by it. I pray that you would send your Holy Spirit to ignite the conscience of those people, and that they would turn over the hostages, free the hostages, drop their weapons, stop fighting, and this could all be over very, very soon so that we can all go home. Lord, I pray for the people who are watching this. Whatever needs they have, everyone is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. So I pray specifically for the people who are watching right now, that you would be very real to them in their time of trouble, that they would call out to you and you would answer whenever they find themselves in time of trouble. I pray, Lord, that you would rise up people to come and to assist Israel in replanting its orchards and its vineyards after this is all over, and recover its economy. And Lord, I just ask that you would bless Israel and bring peace here. In the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And all of you who are coming here, your subscriptions help us a lot. Going and subscribing and liking this channel will help us a lot as well. It helps the algorithm, so it gets boosted out there and more people will see it when we go live. Tell your friends about it too. All right, hope to see you again tomorrow. God bless you. Take care.